Good day, dear friends and listeners. Once again, we have another article from Mr. Controversy X, Brother Eli Soriano. You can check out his website at www.controversyextraordinary.com. This one was published on September 12, 2020, and the title of this article is The Purpose and Meaning of Life. All creatures exist for a definite purpose, and it is in the fulfillment of such purpose that their lives become meaningful. If you are a keen observer of the different creatures around you, you would come to understand that each of them is aware of the very purpose of their existence, and that they are ready to carry out their purpose, no matter what it takes. Take the case of honeybees. A male honeybee or a drone knows that his purpose or duty is to mate with and impregnate the queen honeybee. And since he understands what his duty is, he performs it despite his knowledge that in doing so, he would lose his life because after mating with the queen, he is destined to die. Hence, they call it sexual suicide. Below is an excerpt of an article entitled Sexual Suicide by Honeybees, the Tragic Plight of the Male Honeybee. The male honeybee, called a drone, exists for one reason only: to mate with the queen. He is entirely expendable once he provides this service to the colony. The drone takes his mission seriously, however, and will give his life for the cause. Honeybee mating is one of the most dramatic examples of sexual suicide in the insect world. Honeybee sex occurs in mid-air when the queen flies out in search of mates. Drones compete for the chance to mate with their queen, swarming around her as she flies. Eventually, a brave drone will make his move. As he grasps the queen, the drone everts his penis using a contraction of his abdominal muscles and hemostatic pressure and inserts it tightly into the queen's reproductive tract. He immediately ejaculates with such explosive force that the tip of his penis ruptures and is left behind inside the queen. The drone falls to the ground, where he dies soon after. From this, we see how the male honeybee is taking his mission very seriously, even if it would cost him his own life. It can be said that the life of the drone becomes meaningful because he is able to fulfill the purpose of his existence and becomes an instrument in the proliferation or birth of more honeybees. If the male honeybee or the drone takes his duty for granted, the bees of their kind would probably have already become endangered, or they could have undergone extinction. But because of their sexual encounters, the queen lays lots of honeybee eggs, which later on will be hatched and become young honeybees. It is not only the male honeybee or the drone that has a specific duty to perform. Actually, each member of the honeybee colony has a duty to fulfill. The queen, for example, is in charge of protecting the entire honeybee colony. It is her responsibility to defend their colony from intruders. And since she assumes a very huge responsibility, she is not required to go out to look for her food. That duty belongs to the worker bees. The worker bees are the ones who go out, hovering from one blossom to another, to gather nectar for the queen. The worker bees collect nectar from flowers by sucking and then bringing it to the hive so that the queen will be assured of a steady supply of food. As the nectar is passed on through their mouths, it gradually turns into honey, which the worker bees store in honeycomb cells. As the queen honeybee cannot consume all of the honey that has been stored for her, the excess is consumed by humans. Honey, the honeycomb specially, does not only taste sweet, but it is also very beneficial to man's health. In fact, eating honey is recommended by the Bible. Proverbs chapter 24 verse 13 in King James Version says, "My son, eat thou honey, because it is good, and the honeycomb which is sweet to thy taste." We can always count on every pronouncement of God written in the Bible. Honey indeed is good. Actually, it is considered as a complete food, for it contains all of the essential minerals and vitamins that the human body needs. Its completeness can be likened to milk, which is also considered as complete food for babies. It must be remembered that when God delivered the Israelites from the land of Egypt, He promised to bring them to a land flowing with milk and honey. Exodus chapter 3 verse 8 in King James Version. "And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land and a large, and to a land flowing with milk and honey." That means the people of God would not lack nourishment in that land. Both the young and the old would have a supply of complete food, milk for babes and honey for grown-ups. However, honey should not be given to infants or to children below 1 year of age, as it could be detrimental to their lives. So instead of honey, they should be given milk. Actually, even grown-ups are also advised to take just the right quantity of honey. According to the Bible, man should only eat a sufficient amount of honey, not excessively. Proverbs chapter 25, verse 16 in King James Version. "Hast thou found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be filled therewith and vomit it." If you ingest more than the sufficient amount of honey, your glycemic level will rise, and this might induce vomiting. The point that I want to emphasize is this: if honeybees have not been faithful in fulfilling the purpose of their existence, that is, if the male honeybee refuses to risk his life in mating with the queen honeybee, if the worker bees likewise do not gather and store nectar for the queen, and if the queen fails to lay and hatch eggs, which become young honeybees, surely not only would their colony perish, but most especially humans won't get the chance to benefit from the health and curative properties of honey. Apparently, although honey is originally meant for their queen's consumption, humans benefit from it too. In other words, men have become the end beneficiaries of the bees' diligent performance of their respective duties. Actually, even if we speak of other creations such as trees, cattle, fishes, hogs, and chickens, you will realize that the end beneficiaries of their existence are also men. They exist for the purpose of sustaining man of their needs for nourishment, and their existence becomes meaningful because they are able to fulfill that purpose. Now, if non-human creatures exist for a definite and noble purpose, the same thing must be true with humans. Man also exists for a specific purpose or duty, which he also ought to fulfill, and that duty is to serve God. Man must not spend his life aimlessly and uselessly. Instead, he must spend it in honoring God and in keeping His commandments, because that is his whole duty. As it is written in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13 in King James Version, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Man's whole duty is to serve God, the Creator of life. We owe Him our lives and our beings. Acts chapter 17, verse 28 in King James Version says, "For in Him we live and move and have our being." So it is but rightful that our lives be spent in serving our Creator. For without Him, we could not have existed here on earth. Sadly, the people then did not realize it, so they killed Him, the Son of God and author of life. Acts chapter 3, verse 15 in Revised Standard Version, "and killed the author of life, whom God raised from the dead. To this we are witnesses." Instead of showing love and gratitude to the Lord Jesus Christ, and instead of serving Him, they even killed Him. Indeed, it will be very unfortunate if we fail to understand the purpose of our existence, and if we won't be able to discover the meaning of our lives, lest we might just end up as loafers and idlers or hedonists perhaps. To understand the meaning of life is to know first the purpose of our existence, as well as the duties that we have to fulfill. And it is in fulfilling our duties and in serving our purpose that our lives become meaningful. As humans, our purpose and our whole duty is to serve God. That duty is what gives meaning to our lives. Without it, our lives become purposeless and meaningless. So if we want our lives to be purposeful and meaningful, we have to spend it in serving God. And serving God means honoring Him and keeping His commandments. May God bless you.